What's up, guys? Welcome back to Much as Wrench Said here. Today we're doing something a little different. I'm going to give a recap of the Goodguys 2019 show that we went to last weekend here. So you guys have heard us talk about on the past episodes, Goodguys, everything about it, the excitement we have for it, going to it. Well, it happened. We went. Goodguys happened. It's the Catalina effing wine mixer of car shows. And we went. We were there. We're going to break it down for you guys. So, Goodguys 2019. Friday to Sunday show. Started out. I wasn't able to be there Friday. Had to work, which was kind of killing me because I actually work maybe about 2-3 miles from the fairgrounds where it's held at down here in Columbus. Killing me. I'm in the office the whole day. Can't go down to the show. You know, I went out on lunch, walked around for a little bit just to get some exercise. And what passes a 68 Camaro drag car? It's like, it must be a sign. Jesus. So, get off work. Now, like I said, I couldn't make it to the show Friday, but what we do is, so there's all kinds of cruise-ins all over Columbus here. All kinds of cruise-ins, car meets, the Goodguys weekend, the nights of, especially at the hotels where a lot of the main guys stay. And there's a big one at Quaker Steak and Lube, the restaurant up at Polaris there. Huge, unofficial car show and burnout. Not a burnout contest, but burnouts that go on up there. It's a funny thing, a little backstory on that. Me and a couple buddies, we used to actually always go to Bush Boulevard, which is right there off of 161. So what would happen is all the cars coming up from the fairgrounds on 71 would get off at 161 there to go back at the hotels there along Bush Boulevard where they stay back in Crown Plaza, whatever all that's called back there. It used to be great. There was a Bob Evans there. They'd play music. They'd grill food outside. Hundreds upon hundreds and hundreds of people would sit in lawn chairs along the road there. And it was great. Cars would do burnouts. You'd see all the hot rods coming in. It was great. Well, as the years progressed, the police presence got a little less and less. And with that, the burnouts got intense. Got crazy. Just awesome burnouts. It was basically Thunderdome out there. It was awesome. Well, a couple years ago, the cops finally had enough and just shut it all down. Shut it all down before dusk. They shut everything down, shut the whole road, said it was done. Well, I had already been kind of hearing that Quaker Steak and Lube was the place to go because the police actually kind of control the burnouts there. They let them happen. They just mitigate them. So this year last year and this year we went to Quaker Steak and Lube. So go back to where we were Friday, get off work, go home, change, a little deodorant on, hop in the Camaro, head up to Quaker Steak and Lube. So I'm in the Camaro, feeling good. It's Friday, feeling great. The weekend, and traffic. Traffic the whole way there. Freeway, I'm sitting in the Camaro. Luckily, not overheating or anything. Life's good. Get to Quaker. Awesome. People everywhere. Burnouts. The cops are there. Letting people do burnouts. So the cops did something really interesting. They'll let people do burnouts for like 15, 20 minutes. They'll let cars come in. They'll keep everybody behind lines so as to not get hit. But cops will let you do burnouts. They'll cycle the cars in, and then like every 15, 20 minutes, they'll shut it down for like a half hour. And they'll just keep on those rotations. So it's pretty awesome. You get to walk around, look at the cars. A lot of cars down there. I actually had trouble finding parking. I ended up parking in a hotel where you couldn't even see my car anymore. It's awesome down there. A lot of cars of note there. One I especially liked was this. It's like an old Ford T-Bucket, and it had a small block Chevy. Well, attached to that were 8 turbos, which it turns out were off of a Kubota. I'm guessing like a Kubota mini excavator or something like that. And those 8 turbos fed a roots blower, like an 871 or something. It's awesome. Awesome. Fuel injected, FI Tech on top. That was cool. We actually got to talk to the owner, and first thing he said was a lot of Budweiser involved. It was great. I think that was the best thing I saw that night. But just a real good night. We kind of called it early that night, maybe 9:30, so we could get home. But before we left, we did see a couple other things. We saw this 69 Camaro, which obviously I'm kind of partial to. And you'll notice it's actually on C5 Z06 wheels, which it's a common thing. Well, it's slammed to the ground, so we figure, yeah, it's on air ride. Well, we walk up to it and look underneath it because this thing was on the ground, lower than mine. And And we look up underneath it, and what's on it? Corvette suspension. Now, that's common nowadays. It's a big thing. Everybody's running C5, C6 Corvette suspension, but it's usually just the control arms, sway bars, and knuckles, things like that that have been adapted onto their stock subframes. This thing actually had the full front and rear subframes out of a C5 Vet. So it had a full tube chassis that was custom made around those. And I wish I had gotten a picture of the engine, because this LS was on the ground. I don't know what kind of oil pan they had, but this engine was on the ground practically. The car was too, so it had independent rear suspension out of the Vet, had the full Vet cradle in the front. On top of that, it was bagged, just on the ground. Just beautiful, beautiful. Also saw this. Now, there was talk that it was a kit car. There was talk that it wasn't a real Testarossa. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but it was kind of that Japanese, whatever you call it, style of stance. It was on air ride wheels, that real bad cambers. Not really what I'm into, but it was neat. It was kind of different, you know. And I'll tell you, if it was a kit car, if it was a fake, I was actually impressed, because we went and looked under the rear bonnet, as they call it, to see what was going on under there, and we couldn't tell. And there was a Ferrari engine cover. So, I mean, if it was a kit car like a Fiero or something, which it very possibly could be, they did a good job of covering up. I mean, they went to places where people probably wouldn't even look. But the owners weren't around. I couldn't get a in-depth interview of the car, but I would have liked to have known. But that was pretty neat. So, a lot of good things that night. But like I said, we kind of called it early. But before we could leave, we had to go beat up the cars a little bit. I went with Brad, who was on the last show. He brought a 79 Camaro with that 350 crate out, and did a couple donuts, a couple good ones there. And funny, so he's doing these donuts. We leave, we tear ass out of there, cruise the Polaris Parkway a couple times, have some fun, and we get down to the other part of the road there, and he's going to do another donut. Turns out there's too many people around, too close to the road, so we don't do it. So he takes off back onto the main road. Well, his muffler falls off. Sparks go everywhere. We stop in the middle of the road. He gets out. He's like, I thought my drive shaft blew. So we had a good laugh about that. We ended up pulling into a Cabela's, and he replaced took the muffler off, threw it home, and then drove home with, one bank with a muffler, one bank without a muffler. But that was a good laugh. And both of us always have tools in our cars, so it was an easy fix. But it's kind of a funny thing. But the next day, Saturday morning, was the show. Get down there. You got to park way out in the sticks. We got there about an hour after it opened. I think we got there a little after 9. Awesome. Weather was perfect. It's just a beautiful day. It's Goodguys 2019, the Catalina wine mixer. Now, something was different this year. Goodguys used to shut it off for years up to, it was any make and model up to 1972. It was kind of their cutoff. So anything later than 72 used to not be a part of the show. Well, recently they changed that, this was the first year for up to 87. So you could have any make and model of a hot rod up to 1987. And we were a little concerned. I mean, we're into big 80s muscle cars. We were a little concerned that they were going to convolute the scene down there. It was just going to be a slew of just junk. We were pretty worried about that. And it wasn't. It wasn't at all. I mean, you had a lot of G-bodies, a lot of Camaros, a lot of C10s and Blazers from the 80s and late 70s there. But it wasn't a huge influx or anything. We didn't even notice more than a couple hundred, and that's out of 6,500 cars come to this show. So a lot of cars. Funny thing about Goodguys, it's actually the biggest car show in the world, as I understand it. If I'm wrong, let me know what the other one is, because I know it's the biggest in the country, and I'm pretty sure it's the biggest in the world. Crazy show, crazy big, but yeah, it was pretty cool that you'd have third-gen Camaros there, like I said, the 78 to 88 G bodies, I guess 87 in this case, but it was pretty neat. So there's so many cars, it's hard to take a picture of everything. So what I did was I took a picture of some of my favorites, some things that I just thought were really neat. And one of the things about this show, you're there the whole day, so by the end of the show, you could see something cool that you've never seen before. By the end of the day, you're so damn worn out, tired, and yeah, so you could walk past some crazy cars, but it's funny. Recently I compared closing up a Goodguys weekend to like leaving a weekend at Vegas. You're tired, sore, and trying to remember what the hell happened. That's basically what it's like closing up a Good Guys weekend for us. But awesome time. So there's a few of the things we saw there. There was this Blazer. It's probably mid-70s, like a 75, 76, something like that, Blazer. But underneath, I believe, is a full tube chassis. You'll notice the oversized factory-style wheels. And under the hood is a brand new LT1 style V8 out of like a 2015 and up Silverado. It was really neat. Had the engine, overflow tank, the core support, the fans, the radiator, PCM, everything there. Everything under the hood. I should have gotten a better picture of that. Just looked like a brand new Silverado. You couldn't tell. It had factory style gauges inside, but they were updated. They were a little different. You had to look closely. Just beautiful truck, really badass. It was actually built by a guy who built a lot of these 69 Camaros that I'll actually talk about here in a bit. Guy that's a GM engineer who builds a lot of these pro touring vehicles. So it was an awesome truck. Next was this thing that I've actually seen for a couple years. It's like a 49 or 50 Chevy pickup, but you'll notice that it's actually got all Chevy SSR parts on it. The Chevy SSR was like a kind of a hot rod pickup from Chevy, like 01, 02, something like that. Had a little beefy, I think it was a 5.3 LS in it. Kind of a neat little thing, single cab. I'd say short bed, but kind of a weird little bed. But yeah, somebody had adapted these new SSR parts, the wheels, the grill. I'm pretty sure those are the headlights off of it. If not, they might be Mercedes headlights. But just everything, parts of the bed, just beautiful. I had a chance to look at this actually more last year, and it's just incredible. I mean, they put the LS out of the truck in it too. Just really, really neat how they did that. I thought that was pretty damn awesome. Next, I kind of was into this. This is probably like a 77, 78 F-150. I kind of looked at it as like a mini Bigfoot. Those of you that remember Bigfoot, the big monster truck kind of started the scene in monster trucks. This I kind of looked at it like a mini truck, mini Bigfoot. But this was neat because, like I said, you wouldn't have seen this in years prior, being later than 72. So it was neat to see things like this. People bring these cars out to the show this year. It's really neat. You guys may have heard me talk about this, but for a while now they're doing an autocross course where they set up the cones and tight turns, and cars go through a slalom there and weave around and drive, and it's awesome. It's absolutely awesome to watch because these aren't just your grandfather's muscle cars in there. These are fully built pro touring machines. We're talking 305 tires in the front, 335s in the back, 700 horsepower LSs, full tube chassis, custom built, all Corvette suspension cars. Just awesome to watch that. So these were a couple of the cars in that area there. So you had this Corvair and this Pontiac Le Mans? What do you call it? It's actually pronounced, so the racetrack in Europe is actually Le Mans, but I don't hear a lot of people say Pontiac Le Mans. But anyway, these are really neat because when was the last time you saw, if ever, tires like that on the front of that Corvair? I mean, I think they were 305s. I mean, on the front of a Corvair, that's nuts. Never seen that before. Probably never see it again. It's like this Nova. The tires that are on these cars, because they're race cars. I mean, they're full-on race cars. They're a little tame. Maybe they have fuel injection. You could probably drive them on the street. Well, you could drive them on the street, I should say, but just awesome. I mean, these tires, 305, 315s in the front. I mean, these tires are probably 40 or 50 millimeters wider than my rear tires. I mean, that's nuts. And these are on the front of these cars. That's crazy. I love the pro touring scene. What do you guys think? You guys all fans of the pro touring scene? Any of you think it's getting kind of worn out? Let us know what you think. I'm curious to hear. You guys know that I kind of built my 69 Camaro around that. I call it faux touring because it's pro touring on a budget, but that's how I kind of built my car. I've always been into that style. And let me know what you guys think. Any of you think that's on its way out? You think it's only getting bigger? What do you guys think? Back in that section was this. This was kind of my favorite from the show just because it was one of the most different things I've ever seen at that show. It was like a 55 or 56 Mercedes SL 300. 300 SL. I don't know my Benzes that well. Full tube chassis, all custom, center lock wheels. It had a 454 LS under the hood, the gull wing doors, custom red interior. It had a custom luggage set in the back hatch there. to match the car. And it was actually built by Kindigit Customs, who I got to meet Dave here at a car show that I entered at the zoo last year. I just thought that was really neat. Just thought that was incredible. Never really seen an old Mercedes done up that way. That was honestly one of my favorites at the show, even though it wasn't a domestic make. I loved it. Loved it. Also back there was this Mustang built by Detroit Speed. It's a 1972 Boss Mustang, and it's funny. I've been following this car being built on their social media pages by Detroit Speed for the past couple of years, and it actually got debuted, as far as I understand, to the owner at this show. A lot of times they'll do that. These companies will build the car and then they'll take it on like a show circuit and show the cars. But this thing got debuted to the owner at the car show, and they raced it. They didn't take it easy on this thing. They raced it, took it around the autocross course there, and from what I understand, it did pretty well. I didn't get to see it run, but that's what's nice about this company, Detroit Speed, and a lot of their products and these cars. I mean, they're fancy cars, high dollar, easily $200,000 into most of these pro touring cars, but they run them. I mean, they're built to run. They're built to race. It's awesome. Kind of like this third gen here. This is probably one of my favorite cars of the show if we're talking like later model cars. This thing had all Detroit Speed suspension on it. Actually stock style suspension in the front, which was kind of interesting. Stock lower control arms. Some little nifty tips and tricks on the strut mounts there. But and you notice on that strut brace there, Detroit Speed, they're kind of fun. They started making products for the third gens recently. You notice the mullet man, as they call it, on there. That's pretty cool. I like that little touch. They kind of have fun with the joke of Camaros being the mullets. But that was just a beaut there. And then tucked away back there also was this 72 Camaro, which was actually built for Dale Jr. I don't know if somebody else owns it now or what, because I'm pretty sure Dale wasn't there, but Detroit Speed, the same company, they built that for Dale Jr. custom back in 08, something like that, 2008. They built that for him. So that was pretty neat there. I just saw it sitting there. I didn't see anybody around, so I didn't get to talk to anybody, but that was really cool to see that there. So then across the fairgrounds, in a section they call the Pros Picks, which are all like the top-end cars, the cars that are competing for the Street Machine of the Year, Street Rod of the Year titles. And the Pros Picks are all just the custom cars, like the custom of the custom of the custom cars. And what was there? Christine. 58, 59 Chrysler Imperial. Just beautiful. I didn't really love the rims, but had a third-gen Hemi with a Pro Charger on it, so that's pretty hard to not love. Also there was this Ford. I think it was like a 39 or 40 Ford. I don't know my hot rods that well, my older hot rods that well. I think it was like a 44, but the real neat thing about this, if you look closely, is so when you walk up to it, it looks like it's bare metal, right? You're like, oh, it's another bare metal car, clear-coated. It wasn't. So the best we could figure, Andy actually came up with this theory, and I think he's probably right. What we figure they did probably is took like a thin layer of Bondo, some kind of putty, laid it all over the car, 100% all over this body, just a thin layer, and then just scuffed it a little. Just gave straight scuff marks all along it with some compound or whatnot, and then painted over it in a silver. Because when you walked up, you could see the grain, you could see the cuts in it. And I didn't want to touch it, so I'm not there to really mess with their cars. But yeah, it was paint. It wasn't bare metal at all. That was really neat. I've never seen that done. That was real neat. Also had Mini Cooper headlights. Mini Cooper or Mercedes, but I'm pretty sure of Mini Cooper headlights. But I mean, I think it works. I think it's beautiful. And of course, it's bagged. It's on like 18s or 20s. Just beautiful. I really love that car. They also have a section called the Car Corral and swap meet, the big parts of swap meet that we walked through. I actually didn't find anything to buy this year, arguably because prices were a little high. I'll get into that though. But back in this section was this. This is probably like a 77, 78 jacked up F-150, but it was kind of neat. It was on Humvee tires, on a Humvee 37 1250 tire, like a stock Army Humvee tire. I thought that was really neat. And it's funny, you can actually sell anything in this car thing. It doesn't have to be an old car. It doesn't have to be hot rod doesn't have to be anything. I mean, had this Pontiac here, which is funny, almost the exact car that my dad had, convertible, black, everything. It probably was my dad's car. I didn't get close enough to look, but it's real neat. They just sell everything here. That's where this area is where I bought that black O2 WS6 one year. Actually talked to that guy, saw him there, but nothing I really found this year. A few things I liked, but nothing I could afford. They had this thing in there. This is pretty crazy. I feel like this is what happens when you can fabricate. You're a wild man, and you got an S10 or a Sonoma, whichever one it was. That's your hot rod. It was real neat. It was some kind of blown 350, but it custom fabricated the whole top of the intake there. It was wild. There were other pieces on the engine and some things on the hood that were fabricated. Really, really wild. I'd never seen anything like that. It was pretty neat. I thought it was a little pricey for a little small block S10, but it was real cool. I had to grab a picture of that. Funny thing, there were actually a few of 454 SS's, like 1990, 1991. Andy's going to kill me if I get that wrong, but 454 SS pickups, the single cab short bed hot rod pickups that they sold back in the 90s. So it's funny, we're coming around the corner, Andy and I see this, and say, Andy, how much you think they want for that thing? I'm going to guess 13, because prices are really high right now. So I say, I'm going to guess 13. Keep in mind, we hadn't come to the front yet. And Andy goes, well, I bet you 12. Walk around, 12.5. I don't know if that's just luck or we're just that good at guessing, but I just thought that was hilarious. The number was right in between us. But, that was kind of a high number there, I thought. But the craziest thing, check this out. Yeah, this good-looking F-150. Look a little closer there. Keep looking a little closer. $13,000 they wanted for that thing. Yeah. I would argue that'd be $5,000 on a good day, and your friends would still make fun of you for that. They had $13,000 listed on this thing. Sure, it was mint, but it's crazy. If that gives you an idea what the prices were like. So, I had a little jingle in my pocket there, kind of burning a hole in my pocket, but just didn't find anything. A couple things I got excited about that were, $5,000 and under, and kind of thought about, but nothing that I really had to have. At least not for the prices. So, moving on. This is a Ford that I've seen there before a couple times. It's cool. It's it's like an old Ford, Model A, Model T style, whatever it is. I think Model A, but it's on a tube chassis and kind of built like a circle track car. I just thought that was really neat. That style, the black wheels, obviously the Cragar D windows that I'm a fan of. Just loved it. Loved it. I thought that was really neat. Excuse me. Next up was this, what probably was a 1955 Ford panel truck, which was on a Crown Vic front subframe. Pretty sure it had a newer Ford, probably 8.8 rear in the back or something custom. And it had a brand new Cobra motor with a blower underneath it. I thought that was really neat. It was on GT500 wheels. Just real neat. Just real neat. And guys, if you're wondering why I'm getting some of these years wrong, I'll tell you. So this show is so big, and you've only got, 7 hours there, something like that. 7 hours, a little less, a little more. You just don't have time. You don't have time to stop and look at everything. You don't have time to stop and look at all the tags and read all the info about them. I mean, you really have to skip over a lot and just walk and stop when you see something that really blows your mind or something that's really cool or something you just haven't seen before. Those things you got to stop at. Other than that, unless you're going to go all 3 days, and we used to go 2 days, but anymore I only have time to go that one day, Saturday. You really got to stay on the move. You look at something, you check it out, you snap a picture, and then remember it later, trying to remember what the hell it was. Kind of like how I was saying Goodguys is like Vegas. But that was pretty cool. Next was this C30 camper built by a company called Creative Mobile Interiors. I get that right? Yeah. This is a pretty neat thing. This went to SEMA last year or the year prior. Might have been 17 that it went there. But funny thing, this was actually built by the shop that the producer here works at. So he's got a little tie into this vehicle, but that was real cool there. Big block, all custom. The box is custom built. Interior is just beautiful. Just an awesome truck. And apparently it's for sale. So if you guys have a lot of money burning you, get in contact with me. We can set you guys up. What do we got? I'm losing track of my stuff here. So this was pretty cool. This had actually been in Hot Rod magazine recently. Not a feature article, but like some pictures of it while I was on the power tour. So this is a mid-70s, whatnot, late 70s C10. But take a peek at what's under there. See that? That's a brand new Hellcat motor. So 707 horsepower Dodge motor in a Chevy. I thought that was really neat because you always see the opposite. Everybody puts Chevy motors in everything, but how often do you see a Dodge motor, especially a brand new one, put in an old Chevy? I thought that was real cool. And funny story, remember this truck. I'll come back to it in a few minutes here with something that happened with it at Quaker. So then there was this, I believe it was a 67 Ford Fairlane, and this was one of the contestants for Street Machine of the Year. It didn't win, but you guys notice anything different about that other than the just sheer beauty of it? It's got a single overhead cam, big Ford motor in it, but take a look at the wheel wells. So my buddy and I, we walk up to this thing and we're like, this thing's sitting perfect. We're like, the stance on this is perfect, and the wheels were perfect, the dish was right, the offset was perfect. We're like, something's just perfect about this. We actually just stared at it. You know, this car is way more custom than it, circling us, and we're staring at this Fairlane, and we're like, boy, it's just beautiful. And did some research once I got home, and I realized they raised those wheel arches something like, I'm going to guess like 6 inches in the front and 10 inches probably, I'm going to say, in the back, so that the wheels weren't just completely tucked. So they dropped the car down and raised these wheel arches, and I just think that came out perfect. You can still see the rims, just beautiful. I just love that. Love that look. I was really taken aback by that. So a lot of guys will know, if you're any good at your math, this is the 50th anniversary of the 69 Camaro this year. So Goodguys put on kind of a separate little just area for that inside this building, which, thank God, this was towards the end of the day. We're had a couple beers, had a lot of water trying to hydrate, some bad fair food. We're tired. We're pretty tired at this point by the end of the day. And so we get some relief. We go into this air-conditioned building and just all 69 Camaros. My buddy made a good joke. He said the last time this many 69 Camaros were inside all together was at the factory. And he's probably right. There was something like 120, 130 Camaros there. We didn't even get to look at them all. There were so many in there. But one of the most famous ones here, which a lot of guys out there you'll probably know, is Big Red. This thing's famous. It's actually, I believe it's still the fastest Camaro in the world. So this car is built for land speed racing, open road racing. It's been around since the 80s. It was actually built kind of on a, the chassis was built for it, but it was kind of built on a stock car chassis, like an 80s Cup car, I think it's right, Cup car. Anyway, NASCAR chassis underneath, so it's a full race car, full-on race car. But this thing's on Hot Rod's cover probably every 5 years because they change it around. They got different motors for the different races they're going to. The car's been like 260 on open road racing on, I think it's like the Silverstone Classic it's called, way out west there on the main roads. Awesome. That was kind of like meeting a celebrity. It's funny, a lot of these Camaros in here really were like meeting a celebrity, because a lot of these Camaros I'd read about, seen online, seen in shows, and getting to see them there was just really, really neat. I was kind of drawn to the Z28 here because that's kind of the style I built my car after. It's that kind of late 60s, early 70s Trans Am Series racing. That's always kind of how I built the look of my my Camaro. Now, I don't have the mini lights that this did, but I have the Cracker D windows, but I was really drawn into this and looked at it for a little while because that's kind of the style that mine was drawn after to me. So this was neat. This was a new build that I had seen a lot on social media and some of the magazines. Obviously, 69 Camaro, but underneath the hood is an LT1 or LT4, full road race chassis. Again, all Detroit speed stuff, just full-on race car. But the body was all stock. They didn't paint it. They just cleaned it up a little. That was it. So outside, factory looking other than the giant wheels, but underneath race car. And I just thought that thing was really neat. So that kind of drew up the show for the year. Like I said, we were there for about 7 hours. We're pretty worn out, pretty good tan lines going once we were done. But that was the show for the day. But we weren't done. We went back to Quaker Steak that night, as we would. And boy, if I thought it was busy Friday night, Saturday night was just nuts there. I'm going to say easily a couple thousand people, between people sitting in chairs lining the road, to people on the patio watching the burnouts, the people surrounding the burnout areas. Just crazy. The amount of people there is just nuts. And funny thing, I was talking about that, told you guys to remember that Silverado with that Hellcat motor. So that thing rolled in here, did a big burnout, big old smoky burnout, and it comes out, and funny, it actually threw the tread on the tire, but the tire didn't pop. So he's got like this giant balloon of the tire. If some of you guys have seen that, when a tire will throw its tread, but the tread or the tire doesn't blow, that's pretty wild to see because you basically got a ticking time bomb of a tire. So we went up and talked to the guy. He had a good laugh about it. You know, I mean, they put all these money into these vehicles. It's good to see somebody can still laugh when something goes wrong. But we were like, man, get away! Don't stand near it. But it was crazy, you know. So the cops are letting people do burnouts. It's a good time. Well, the cops stayed till a little after 10 there, and then, you know, their shift was done. They headed out, and it just turned into the Wild West. You know, the main road just became a burnout contest. And I'll show you guys some videos here. You guys can watch these, check these out. Let me know what you think, and yeah, this will give you an idea of what Quaker Steak is like. Crazy stuff, right? It's awesome down there. It was literally it was Thunderdome. I mean, the cops. You know, I saw them come through maybe once every half hour after they left that night while these burnouts are going on. Obviously, people would stop burning out while they were while the cops were driving by. But other than that, no lights ever came on. Nobody ever got pulled over that I saw. Yeah, just didn't see them. And I hope it'll stay like that. You know, I hope. You know, even if they start mitigating the burnouts a little bit on the road, I hope Quaker Steak will stay a thing because that's just such a good time there. It's even fairly family friendly. You know, you got the restaurant there, you can get food, get your drinks, but you know, good environment. You can bring your lawn chairs, just sit on the road, which is what we did for Saturday night there. We just sat down and watched them. I drove the Camaro again. That was great. Had a buddy that actually had never been in the Camaro before, Andy. He rode with me down there, and leaving, it was dark. It was pretty late, and it was about 11 o'clock. And I got to show him what the Camaro's got in it, you know, how I built it, and see what it's like driving in a LS conversion car. And I think he had a good time. We tore it up pretty good. Beating on it. speeding on it. Not we tore the car. The car's fine, but we had a good time. Good time coming home from Quaker Steak. Stopped for a quick beer run there. Got some drinks. Headed back home, and that kind of closed it up. I tell you, Goodguys is just, it's something else. If you guys, I've mentioned this before. You really got to be into cars to go to the show, because it's a lot. It's a big show. Unless you're one of those guys that wants to go to a show, walk around for an hour or two at the most, and just leave. That's fine too. It does kind of cost a lot. It's about $20 to get in, and then you got to pay for parking at the fairgrounds there too. But a lot of walking. Bring your comfortable shoes. Wear some lotion. But it's just a good time. There's no car show like it. Especially if you do the nights. If you make a whole weekend out of it, it's great. It's just a good time. So I highly recommend going to that next year. But that was Goodguys 2019. Great time. Awesome time. I kind of was hoping I would have a new project car to tell you guys about, but like I said, prices were a little out of my range this year, so no such luck. Maybe next year we'll see what happens. But so yeah, that about wraps it up for Goodguys. Couple updates. When you guys see this video here, the C8 Corvette should be out. Should have been released. They were going to reveal it on July 18th, so it should be out now. I was curious as to what you guys think, because I don't believe pricing or horsepower numbers are out yet. I don't think they've even confirmed what engine's in it. What do you guys think they're going to be marked at? What do you guys think the MSRP of these new Vets is going to be at? And what do you think the horsepower is? Like I said, as of this recording, it hasn't been officially revealed yet, so I don't know what engine's in it. I think it's just going to be the LT1 for now, but yeah, what do you guys think? What do you think they're going to start at? Go for? Are you guys excited about them? I've been reading a lot of articles. A lot of people are livid that they're going mid-engine. They say they're kind of going away from the Corvette thing, but I would argue, things change. I mean, people were livid when the pop-up headlights went away. I was one of them. I loved pop-up headlights. I thought that kind of made a Corvette. People were mad when the round taillights went away with the C7s. People were upset about that, up in arms. So a mid-engine Corvette, it's just going with the times, changing. They're trying to get more in the supercar category, and that's why I bring up the price. That's why I want to know what you guys think, if they're going to still make these things affordable, in the 70s and 80s, if you consider that affordable. But you know what I mean, keeping them under six figures for being a mid-engine, arguably, supercar. So, yeah, pretty excited to see when those numbers come out from GM. But let me know what you guys think. You guys excited for that or what? Also, I posted a picture a while back on Instagram of the Dodge. So I got some warranty work done on it. Nothing big, just a few small things, some recalls, a couple little things I thought were wrong with it. And I got it back, and I've always been kind of waiting to put some parts on it to try and really get to loving the truck more. I was waiting to do that warranty work. Finally got that work done, so I went out and I bought exhaust for the truck, some airbags for the back, and a leveling kit. Got some updates on those. Put the exhaust on. It was a Flowmaster system, direct fit system. Kind of pricey because the Ram exhaust has some bends in it that make it a little difficult to just throw in like a 40 series like I would have done back in high school. So I had to get a direct fit muffler, but I'll say this, one of the easiest installs of exhaust I've ever done. I mean, from start to finish, I think it took me a little over 2 hours. I mean, full start to taking it around the block, 2 hours. It was awesome. And it sounds great. Little droney in 4-cylinder mode, but, there's nothing you can do about in these trucks. It's going to be a little bit like that. But, I mean, the thing just sounds mean. It's not too loud. I wanted something that was deep. Gave it a little rumble, but it didn't sound anything like the Camaro. And I'm real impressed. That exhaust actually is making me kind of like the truck a little more. Kind of making me feel like a little more of me. Excuse me. Haven't put in the airbags yet. Still trying to find some time to do that. I just need a few hours here or there, and I'll get those in. I did try and put the leveling kit on. Funny story with that. It's just a small 2-inch level. I just want the front end of the truck brought up a little bit so the truck just sits even. Just kind of like the truck to just have a better stance to it. So I get the whole driver's side torn down, and I'll get the upper control arm separated from the knuckle, got the steering off, obviously got the strut out, and these blocks, they just mount on top of the strut, and you put it back in. Well, I go to put it back in, and nothing's lining up. The 3 bolt holes on the top of the strut aren't lining up. Like, what the hell? So I start doing some reading online, watch a couple YouTube videos, and by the time it was done, I decided to scrap that whole idea of at least using those parts. Luckily, they didn't cost me much. They were under $100, but just read a lot of things about guys arguing the safety of them. I'm sure you guys will have some opinions on that, but for my truck, I guess there's some upper control arm issues for those years where you don't want to level them too much because it can cause the ball joint to separate from the control arm, which is, I don't want to understate that. That's a big deal. But so I kind of just nixed that whole idea, and I'm actually going to try and reapproach this this way of leveling it. I'm probably going to look at some Bilstein leveling struts to level a little safer there. The problem is it's going to be about 5 times the price of these things, but so I had to put that all back together. That was kind of a wash, but we'll get there. I'll get those bags in, but the exhaust for now, I guess, is really the only thing I've done to it. But it really has made a difference. It's kind of like a whole new truck to me because the thing was so damn quiet before. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about that. If you guys have done any leveling kits, what kind of leveling kits you've done, what you think about them. Yeah, that's really it for me this time. I'll close it up with one story that I forgot from Goodguys there, and then I'll let you guys go. Funny story. So there was a Volkswagen Beetle that we saw from a mile away at the show here this weekend. We walk up to it, and it's got like a blue patinaed look, kind of rusty looking, almost like a barn find look, 60s Beetle. And thing's sitting on the ground. It's on bags, on 17s, and it's got a big LS twin turbo in the front. Somehow they managed to hang this LS Corvette engine in the front of it with twin turbos. Crazy looking. Obviously no hood anymore. I mean, hell, the damn turbos were farther out than the front end of the car. But it's funny, you walk up, we're checking it out, we're talking about it, we're real close to it. And there's this group of 6 or 7 guys standing in front of the car just talking. I think one of them was probably the owner or something. Well, we noticed there's a button right on the fender of the car. And like I said, the look was kind of a barn find. So what the owner had done is they wrote on the fender with Sharpie. It said, please push the button, or please press here. I think it was. Please press here on this momentary switch. I look at the buddies, and none of us want to do it because we don't know what the hell it's going to do. There's people standing right in front of this car. We don't know if this thing's going to shoot flames or start up. God, we were worried this thing's going to crank. So we're not going to do it. So we get done looking at the car. We're about to start walking away, and I'm like, hell with it. So I press this button. No! Train air horn. This guy had installed a train air horn run to a switch that he was advising people to press. And my buddy just, after we all kind of settled down for a second, my buddy starts laughing his ass off, and he's like, did you see that guy? He jumped out of his boots. All the guys standing in front of the car just jumped a mile high. I guess one of them literally like almost shat himself. It was great. We quickly ran away after that. Then we're like 100 yards down, and we hear it go off again, so somebody else pressed it. But that was pretty funny. I thought that was pretty comical. But yeah, that was about it. That's the recap of Goodguys this year. Like I said, the Catalina Wine Mixer of car shows. It was a great time, really great time. And next year, hopefully, we'll see some of you guys there. For now, as always, be sure to check us out on Instagram at Much's Wrench Set there. Yeah, as always, shoot us questions with anything, any topics you guys want to hear about, anything that you guys want us to delve into and discuss. Other than that, we'll see you guys next time on Much's Wrench Set.